Hey everybody, welcome back to another business analysis video. Today's video, let's discuss how the concept of a user journey can be applied to the scenario of improving the order fulfillment process for an e-commerce company and why a business analyst might create one. So I do have a few existing videos about tools and techniques that we use as business analysts, covering SWOT analysis, PESO analysis, customer journeys, and today we're looking at BPMN. BPMN stands for Business Process Model and Notation. It's a graphical representation for specifying business processes in a business process model. So essentially, it's a standardized method to map out the steps in a business process. But for BPMN, we use a set of symbols and notations that are easily understood for the stakeholders. BPMN provides a uniform language for bridging the communication gap between business process design and implementation. So why exactly do business analysts use BPMN? We create BPMN a lot, especially as doing our analysis. So one reason could be clarifying process steps. BPMN diagram helps in breaking down complex processes into clear, manageable steps. This clarity is essential for understanding and analyzing business workflows. Now, another reason or when a business analyst uses BPMN is for identifying improvement opportunities. By visually mapping out processes, the business analyst can easily spot redundancies, bottlenecks, or inefficiencies that need optimization. Another reason is for facilitating communication. So BPMN diagrams provide a universal language that both the technical and non-technical stakeholders can understand, making it easier to communicate the details of processes. So this is a really great tool for business analysts for better communication. Another reason is for documenting processes. It's crucial really for us to have that standardized way of documenting processes, especially for training, for process re-engineering, or even for compliance purposes. So this is a great tool for that. Another reason is for supporting process automation. So BPMN diagrams can really serve as a blueprint for automating business processes, especially in complex IT projects. So in today's video, we'll apply BPMN to create a diagram for improving the order fulfillment process of an e-commerce company. This topic that we've been exploring in our techniques so far. So this process really starts from the moment the customer places an order and ends with the delivery of the product. So our goal is to map this journey, identify areas for improvement on the journey, and discuss how a streamlined process can enhance the customer satisfaction as well as operational efficiency. So let's get started. Now, we'll first outline the current order fulfillment process, and then step by step, we will translate it into the BPMN diagram. So what is the current order fulfillment process really? What happens in this process? When a customer places an order, the customer goes to the website, isn't it, and places an order. Let's do it at a high level. And then once they place the order, it goes to the back end, to the company, and the company will verify the order, process the order, package it, and then post it to the customer, and the customer receives the order. So for the purpose of today's video, I'll be using Lucid Chart to map the BPMN. I have an existing video teaching you how to map a process on Visio. Link here to watch that. It's really, really good for you to learn how to use these various software and systems that we use to do our work as business analysts. So if you'd like to watch that, click on the link. But anyway, I'm on the template section of Lucid Chart. All you have to do is type BPMN. They have so many templates, right, that you can look at examples of. I'm not going to use a template for this one, but I just wanted to show you how the BPMN looks. So you can just look at these various ones and choose which one you want to possibly edit and work on. I generally wouldn't choose this type of template because there's like so many information on there and I have to start deleting and making it meet my process. So I'm just going to create a blank document, and it should open. And then what I'm going to do is go on shapes and search BPMN. Once I search BPMN, actually this is not a tutorial on how how to use Lucid Chart, but anyway, for the purpose of our video, we're going to do swim lanes, right? And what you want to do first is name, what is the name of your process? Is the order fulfillment process, right? And then you want to identify the actors. Who are the people that perform the tasks within the process? You have your customers, you have the warehouse, because they're the ones who will pick and pack the order, and then you probably have logistics. Now I'm going to add another one. Just right click and insert lane below, and I'm going to add logistics. Now when creating your BPMN diagram or any swim lane diagram, really, you want to know what is the start of the process and what is the end of the process. I'm going to use this event. When you look at the stencils here in BPMN, it tells you exactly what each of them are used for. You have your start event right there. You see where it shows your start event. You have your intermediate event. You have your end event. So when creating a process, you want to know what is the start of the process and what is the end. The start of our process is the order is placed. Now on your start event, you want to represent this. What triggers the process to start is the order is placed, and then what happens? Somebody receives something, and then we start to add our tasks onto it. I'm just gonna drop it there. Okay, so I've gone ahead just to save time to create the BPMN diagram, because today's video obviously is just to show you how the BPMN is represented and possibly what each of these stencils mean. So the start literally is just a circle, the order is placed, and then the warehouse possibly receives the order, and then they have to verify the order. I've identified a data store here because it represents a place where the process data is stored and it can be accessed by multiple tasks or processes. So in having our customer order data store here, this would be a repository of all the customer orders that are received. In order for the warehouse manager to verify the order, they need to go into the data store to view that. And then they have to, the next step in the process is to check the inventory. Do we have the item in stock? You can already see where our process is flawed, because the customer is able to place an order on the website. If the item is not in stock, they are still able to process that. So in doing your analysis, you start to identify these issues on the process, which could result in a pain point, because if the customer places an order and it doesn't exist in the inventory system, it's out of stock, what happens? Is the customer waiting for longer to receive their order, or are they receiving a message, an email to say it's out of stock, and they get a refund? That creates a pain point for the customer, because I wanted something, I ordered it, and then you're telling me that you don't have it in stock. So this is why we create the BPMN or process diagrams in general, so that we can start to pinpoint areas for improvement. So going back to our order fulfillment process, the order is placed, the warehouse will verify the order looking at the data store, and then they check the inventory again, looking at the inventory data store. Do we have this in stock? If the item is not in stock, that ends the process. Actually, there's meant to be something here. So the customer is notified. I've created this as an intermediate step in the process, which means that if the item is not in stock, the customer is notified. This circle with two outlines is called the intermediate event. And when you go here and highlight it, it tells you what that signifies. But the intermediate step is a type of event that occurs within the process rather than at the start or at the end. So it occurs in the middle somewhere. It kind of creates a slight break that possibly links on to another process. So the events can affect the flow of the process, really. Like I mentioned, it creates a break, and it usually represents something that happens based on a condition. Our condition is item is not in stock, or based on passage of time. And they're very important for modeling more complex processes where the events occur between the start and the end points. I hope that makes sense. So coming back here, we see that the customer is notified. Now we might have to sort of link something here to then talk about what happens in the customer process here. So the process can still expand, but for the purpose of our video, I've left that there for now. So I'm going to take this off. Right. Now here where it has a X in the middle, this represents our gateway, exclusive gateway. The exclusive gateway is a type of gateway that is used to control the flow of the process. It's essentially a decision node that determines the path that the process will take based on certain conditions or the evaluation of expressions. So for instance, it leads to either a yes or no, really, when you ask the question, either a yes or no. And then you also have other gateway types here, but for the purpose of our video, we only have exclusive gateway. If the item is in stock, the warehouse goes ahead to prepare the order, then they package the order. Obviously, this is high level, so there are possibly other steps there that they perform, and then they arrange the shipment. I have this paper here with a folded corner, which is called a data object. What is a data object? The data object in BPMN is used to represent data that is required or produced by activities within a business process. Unlike the data store, which denotes persistent data storage, the data objects typically represent data that is in transition or specific to a particular task within the process flow. So in our instance, the data object is shipping label, meaning that once the order is ready for dispatch, this data object could symbolize that the shipping label is generated and attached to the package for delivery. Now, going back to these data stores that I explained, that these would be like repository of all the customer orders for the customer order data store, and the inventory data would be, the data store will contain all the information related to stock levels, item locations, inventory turnover rates, those sort of things. So anyway, going back on to the BPMN diagram, this then links to dispatch order. I'm just going to do this just so you can see, because that's an annotation, not a square, not a box. So if I say, should I say none, so I can explain what the annotation means? Because what's happened is I've gone ahead to add colors. So once you first create your diagram, it has no colors, like at the start of this screen recording, and then I went ahead to add my colors, and you literally just select and find the colors here that you want to use. But because I'm not really teaching you how to use Lucid Chart today, I've taught you a little bit, and I hope that's been helpful. Okay, so going back to the video, logistics then possibly receive the order and then begin to dispatch the order. And then the end of our process is that the order is delivered to the customer. Now, another area of this is where I've showed the annotation in the process. Annotations are used to provide additional information about elements or aspects of a business process diagram, right? They're essentially comments or explanatory notes that give context of clarification that may not be immediately apparent from the visual or graphical element alone. So if you want to add any additional notes or things that you want to call out as part of your task, you can add that in an annotation like this. And it's generally linked with these dotted lines rather than our usual flow lines. So for the purpose of ours is we want to ensure that order accuracy and packaging integrity before dispatch. So we're calling out here that, before the logistics people dispatch it, we need to make sure that everything is good. So that's our as-is BPMN. From documenting this as-is BPMN, you can then go ahead and start to identify pain points, areas of improvement. Now, there's something that I missed, which is when you right click, you can add task types in the tasks by selecting whether it's sending a message, receiving a message, whether it's a user task, whether it's a manual task. For us, it's manual, and it's depicted by this hand thing, meaning that they're using their hand really to package things, pick and package things. So it could be an area where we can then identify that, because they're using their hands, is there a way of automating things? Is there a way of improving that process? Because being manual, you can make mistakes, you can have errors, right? How can we improve that in an automated way? So that's another aspect of BPMN diagrams that you can add to your process. So that's it for today, really. I really enjoyed sharing this today. I hope you've also found value in today's content. BPMN is like one of the bread and butter of business analysis. It's one of the key things that we create. So I hope that you've really found great value in today's content. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content. You never know who it might help. And till I see you in my next one. Peace.